So, let's move on to the second part of the game. In the second part, the developers fixed the mistakes from the previous one and improved some details of the game. Because of this, I like the second part more. Oh yeah, the game was released on March 11th, 2020. That is, during the period when we all sat at home and didn't know what to do. The developers also said that they also had to partially work on the game from home. In general, it is very cool to find out how the second part of Ori was created. However, we're not talking about that. Let's run through the plot and the game itself. It all starts with Ku, a little owl who is Kuro's daughter. The problem is that Ku, unlike other birds, cannot fly because of a damaged wing. Ori comes up with a way to help Ku and asks Gumo to tie Kuro's feather to her wing, and surprisingly it works. Sitting on Ku's back, Ori flies across the whole of Nibel, and then, after flying after birds, guys come across a terrible thunderstorm that separates them. That's how the game begins. In general, this entire section, I would say, is an introduction, and in essence, no matter how big it is more like a tutorial, probably which shows all the features of the game. Of the important things, we can't fight. Well, because Sane is not here, and because in order to fight we need, well, weapons for example? Here on the way we will pick up a torch, and then this will lead us to the first boss, from whom we will at first run away. And, like, wow. This is the first improvement/change in the game. Now bosses are not only an escape from the elements of nature, but also really big opponents with a lot of health. In general, there is a huge variety of bosses, but our first acquaintance with them will be Howl, a huge wolf who will dive us into a corner, and all that will remain is to fight. In general, a very cool chase, because Howl's appearance is very unexpected, and during the chase he also damages Ori, and this is scary. In fact, I noticed that this is a scripted moment, so it's not that scary, but in panic you'll miss it. After that, we will need to drive Howl away by hitting him in the face with a fire several times. Because you don't just attack the magical spirits of the forest. Howl runs away and we got our first victory. After that, through a small platforming section, we get an ability called Spirit Edge. Basically, it's a blade for attacking. It won't be the only attacking ability in the game, but for now, it's the only one we have. Basically, it's a melee attack that doesn't work very well at distance, but it's completely free and doesn't waste energy, so yeah. Then the game starts giving us abilities that are important for movement. All the main ones will be in the introduction right up until the moment when we're allowed to walk through the forest on our own. The first thing we get is a double jump. Of course, the whole game again consists of huge number of platforming sections, and for now it is linear, but believe me, it will change later and you will understand why. In any case, I will not focus much attention on them. Play and see for yourself. Just believe me that they are very interesting and I really like them. While we're running to Qualok, the keeper of these places, we're shown what is happening to Ku, stuck somewhere in a dark and scary place with dead owls, and what is happening to our parents, who, by the way, will be looking for us again throughout the entire storyline. This time it will help less than in the previous part, but I'm already getting ahead of myself. Next, we're given a Spirit Arc ability. Essentially, it is a bow that allows you to shoot an arrow at an enemy or at the bottom that needs to be activated. This ability consumes energy, by the way. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that now we can heal ourselves too, but honestly, I guess we could have done this without this ability. Oh come on, who am I kidding? The size of the game and how long it takes to complete, it is an essentially necessary ability. Especially since the previous part also had this. Oh, and I definitely forgot to explain something else to you. I am being very forgetful today. In short, there are no independent saves here. Yes, the game itself will save at certain points, and if you need to save somewhere in a specific place, please love and favor the well. There is no other options. Next, the game will introduce us to another new feature, merchants. There are several of them and they will sell different things. Some sell upgrades or some abilities, some sell crystals which give you extra buffs, and so on. I'll tell you a little more about them later. All you need to know is that they can be quite useful depending on the type of gameplay or just your needs. At first, we'll meet them somewhere along the adventure, and then in a certain place which I'll tell you about a little later. But he's just a bonus. You can buy a map from him, but overall it's not necessary. Essentially, it replaces those stone maps from the first part. So, what's next? Oh yeah, the developers reconsidered their decision and put the dash somewhere closer to the beginning. Yay. No, I'm serious, it's really cool to get the dash so early in the game. The most interesting thing is that there is even a separate boss for the dash, which is not the part of the story, but you kind of have to beat it and it's kind of very beautiful. Just look at this bug. I don't know, I like the way it looks, it's cool. But it seems to make little sense. Like, we already had Howl to show how bosses work. Why do we need another boss whose attacks are all based on the dash if we've already learned the dash in general during the platforming section? Well, the main thing is that it's beautiful. Next, we're given another ability, Bash. Congratulations! Now we have all the convenient favorite abilities for moving around Niwen. Let's go! Anyway, now it's time to finish our solo introduction. Meet Quolok. I don't know if you expected to see a huge beautiful toad, but here it is, Quolok. He's good, kind, and generally a sweetheart. He'll tell us that in Niwen everything is not so good and that our little sister is in Silent Woods. It's bad there too. There are dead owls, it's scary, grey, and generally bleh. But you won't be able to get there because the wellspring doesn't work, which means the water is dirty, which means you can go to hell. Basically, go fix the wellspring, then you'll move on. And they also give us the voice of the forest. It will be just with us, walking. Anyway, let's run. The next task is to fix the mill. But first, welcome to the base! Yes, now we have something like a hub. There are a few more merchants here. For example, Gorlick named Grom, who is trying to fix everything here. The beaver or a gopher, I still don't understand, whose name I forgot, but he's basically plants seeds, and so on. There is a lot here, but the main thing is that this is our hub, where we can find different creatures that will give us useful goodies for Spirit Light. By the way, there is an achievement in the game for completing the game without using it, but I haven't done it yet, I apologize. By the way, there is a cool guy here who says how many times you've died. Not bad, really. Next, we crawl to the wellspring. I'll say this, the wellspring itself is a relatively difficult location for me. I don't know, personally I had problems with it when outside the wellspring, at least while I was playing on Steam Deck. In general, after I completed it on PC, it seemed easier to me, but maybe it's because it's a little easier to control Ori on PC. Although, after getting the grapple ability, it doesn't get easier, problems begin. On PC, for some reason, I don't understand, it's very difficult to direct Ori so that he clings to something correctly. This is always some kind of a problem, and this is not the only ability that I have problem with. I forgot to say something else, but in general, there are small arenas in the game, but there are just not enough of them. One per location I think there is 100%, but they are not the main focus. After all, as we remember, Ori is a platformer. I also think it is important to note that the entire wellspring consists of mechanism that the developers wanted to add in the game in the first part. You can see this in extra videos in the first part. It is very nice to see those same gears with moss, but already here, it looks vibey. At the end of the mill, there will be a very standard chase from some incomprehensible black entity. It's funny, but it turns out that there are two antagonists in the game. Shriek, which will appear later in the game, and this something that will actually die very quickly. The chase itself is very dynamic, varied, beautiful, and of course unites all the features received earlier. Very cool chase, the most standard thing that can be in Ori, and what just screams that this is our favorite game. Now we run to Silent Woods, and I don't like this location. I just don't like it. It's complicated, nerve-wracking, and requires caution. At such moments you just hate the game because it doesn't allow you to save the game yourself. It would be better if you spammed saves yourselves than this. Oh well. By the way, here we also get a quest. Yes, there is a good thing here. The game has several different side quests, and it's really interesting and fun. There are races and give and bring, and just finding out some information like this time. In short, it's very cool. I like the variety. The whole point of Silent Woods is that we will reunite with Ku and lose almost all the acquired abilities. Congratulations! It's actually very funny because the game seemed to get us a bunch of abilities and then suddenly takes them away. To be fair, they give us a glide in return and leave the double jump. In fact, the entire location shows the ability to work with a feather. Nothing complicated, you just need to concentrate a little. Everything would be fine, but Shriek, to put it mildly, is unhappy with our existence. Again, some owl is trying to eat us. Oh well. But there are a few options here, to be honest. In fact, we have to run away from her a couple of times, after which an encounter occurs and Ku gets caught in the crossfire. Perhaps one of the most painful moments of the plot. Now we need to save Ku, and for this we need to connect the lights that have scattered across Neven. That's the end of the introduction. Now our adventure really begins. This is where the real part of the Metroidvania starts. Basically, we're given 4 points and we can start from any of them. Congratulations, they fixed that crap. And now they don't tell us where to go. In general, for all 4 playthroughs, I think I always used different paths and started from different points each time. Although, I'm not sure. But I know for sure that I haven't started with Bar's Reach yet. For some reason, this location always seemed too difficult to me, to be honest. The main feature of this location is that you need to direct a fireball from a cauldron to a special device that will spread heat on the pot of the location and melt the ice. It seems to me that the hardest part is here, where you need to direct the flame twice. But somehow I managed to do it here for the first time. So, hooray hooray! In this location, we will eventually get the ability to throw fireballs, from which you can also bash off and climb up. Overall, this ability is very useful later, so why not? Also, I'll probably say in advance that I don't know in which order it would be worth going through these locations. Choose what's more convenient for you. Generally, I just like to go through randomly, without order. Go where it's more pleasant for me, so to speak. At the end of the location, a classic chase awaits us, at this time escaping from an avalanche, and also at the very top of the mountain we will find a light. In general, Boar will pull us from under the snow, and we will be able to continue our adventure. After that, I went to Moldwood Depths. And suddenly, disclaimer, if you are afraid of bugs, spiders, and generally similar creatures, fast forward or just turn away from the screen. There are a lot of them here. The feature in this location is that it is dark here. No, seriously, it is infinitely dark here. And you can't stay in the dark for long. How to get through it then? Well, there are special glowing objects here, next to which you can stand safely. And you can also break special growths and call a firefly, which will take you to where you need to go. I honestly got lost here. I don't even know how it happened, but I just got lost and could not figure out how to find a tree with an ability. Everything turned out to be much simpler though. I just can't think, guys. The ability that they will give us here allows us to glow in the dark. By the way, as a bonus, it also deals damage to enemies. But unfortunately, it requires energy. Not that it is a big problem, by the way. In general, there are enough crystals to glow constantly, and when you also have a decent amount of energy cells, it is not a problem at all. Anyway, when I finally found the way, I came to some spider nest. Here will be the next boss who once bought me. When I first saw Mora, I immediately realized that this is the best character in the game. For some, this may be a nightmare, but for me, this huge spider mother became a real selling point. She has an awesome design, very cool attacks, and after she loses enough health, she will generally start a chase to move to a new arena, where at some point she will plunge everything into darkness. This is a very cool boss that combines the player's skills and abilities and the ability acquired in the location. This is probably my favorite boss in the entire game. I can talk about her endlessly, but I think it's better for you to go through it yourself. After defeating Mora, she thanks us, and the spiderlings become our friends. Another wisp collected. What's next? Well, I went to Lumapools, probably the most beautiful location in the entire game. It's actually convenient when you already have the ability to throw fireballs when you get to this location. It's easier to move around the location, that is. And in this playthrough, I also learned that it turns out you can enter Lumapools from the other side. I accidentally explored it, and that's how it turned out. Imagine how cool the game feels, and the exploration even works great this time. It's a bit funny, of course. It's the first time in 4 full playthroughs of the game that I learned about this path. By the way, I made my life a little easier here. I bought myself the ability to breathe underwater, but I assure you, you can get through this location without it. I've already done it. And I even got through the boss, yeah. Of course, the feature of this location is that it is underwater. And to a greater extent, you will need to swim here. In fact, it looks pretty cool, beautiful. I like the puzzles themselves here. The local ability is just a dash underwater, and it's cool, I guess. It's not really needed anywhere except in this location. Somewhere in the middle we'll meet Qualak, who originally came here. To be honest, I think it's supposed to be the first location where the player goes, but it's not necessary, which is why we're so late here. In short, we continue the adventure. Our next boss, Qualak. Yes, this is probably the most terrifying boss in the game for me. First, there will be a short chase, which was difficult for me, but here I went through it in the first time, and then there will be a section in the arena, and everything would be fine, but like, in general, the first half of the battle is normal. It takes place on a fairly stable ground where you can heal, get used to the attacks, all that. And then, somewhere in the middle of the boss's health, Qualak will flood the entire arena with water. And if you think that everything is kind of normal, then forget about heals. Yes, this part of the boss is built on praying that he will start spawning explosive worms to throw at him, or black hands to smash them with a dash and gain health. The presence of fireballs really helped me in this part. They do quite a lot of damage, and in general you can throw them at the boss pretty quickly. Oh, and you can also beat this boss without underwater breathing. I'm not kidding, I've already tried it, I know. After defeating Qualak, we run to him and see that he kills this black creepy thing. But at the cost of what? At the cost of his own life. With this, we say goodbye to our beloved Toad and get another wisp. There is only one place left where we need to go. In fact, I didn't go there right away, not because it's difficult, but because the passage will still be closed until you collect the previous wisps. I already made a mistake like that once and went there earlier. There is actually a well there that you can go to, and in general, it stops to be a problem, but for your convenience I came here at the end. Before we get to the Gorlik's native land, Windswept Wastes, we have to meet Shriek and go through a stealth section. In general, I want to note something important. I started playing here on a Steam Deck after a long time, and I basically just forgot which buttons on the gamepad do what, so I stupidly died several times. In any case, at least I went through it. In fact, this section is more intense than the one from the first part, but for some reason I like it less. As if it's shorter, I don't even know. But probably someone might like it more because of its dynamics. After the stealth section, we move on to Windswept Wastes. Actually, maybe there's something wrong with me, but I still find this location to be one of the hardest. Maybe it's because I spent a long time grinding it on PC, maybe it's because I suffered too much during some of the optional challenges on this location, I don't know, but it seems pretty hard to me. If at first the platforming sections are pretty ordinary, then later we'll be given the ability to burrow into the sand. And here's where the fucked up shit begins. Such a fucking total mess, I don't have words to describe it. First time I played this on PC. And for some reason, I have no idea why at all, but Ori doesn't react well to burrowing. In short, for some reason, he just doesn't burrow sometimes, but just makes an empty dash into nowhere, or doesn't do anything at all. It seems to me that this is because on the keyboard, burrowing and dashing are different buttons. On the gamepad, by the way, it is one button. In general, two abilities, clinging and burrowing in the sand, this is my stumbling block in terms of passing this game on PC. On the keyboard, it is simply impossible. So I could not resist and recorded it on Steam Deck, so as not to torture myself, you, or my editor. In general, I dug through, to the temple pretty quickly, and we can go in. Here we will be told a sad story about the fall of the willow and that the prediction said that there will be a spirit who will return the light to the willow. In the end, the lights unite into one named Seer. It would seem that now we can calmly leave, but it was not so. Yes, they decided to make a reference to Dune. Well, how could they not, when we're literally digging into the sand? Actually, it's a very cool idea. They could have made a simple sand avalanche, but where's the fun in that? A huge worm looks much cooler and the reference itself is really well made. I approve. Now I want to speak about this worm. Here on the Steam Deck, I completed this on first try. In previous playthroughs, I completed it on the first or maybe second try. But now imagine how I passed this on PC where it doesn't work normally. Yes, almost all my deaths were right here. This whole sequence was a physical nightmare for me. Don't believe me? Try it yourself. And don't change the controls, play with the ones that are given. And you will cry from the pain as I did. I failed on this sequence 20 if not 30 times. I went crazy when I completed this for the first time. Here I passed this sequence in general quite quickly, a couple of jams because I forgot how to play at all, but in general we got out of the temple, and now our task is updated. We have one place left, the final location. To be honest, I initially thought of writing this part of the script before completing the Willow, because I thought that since I had already completed it 3 times, I would remember everything in general. How wrong I was. When we arrive at the Willow, the first thing we will encounter is a small arena, which seems very interesting and dynamic to me, so I mentioned it here. And then we will receive an ability that will be very important in this entire location. And generally it is very convenient for movement in others, but for now we are here. This is Launch. Unfortunately, this ability is a part of the circle of skills, which I have said almost nothing about, by the way, but I think you have already seen it as we progressed and understood what I mean. This means that it can only be used among 3 other selected abilities that are activated on the E, R buttons or the left mouse button. This actually complicates the situation. And to be honest, I still haven't figured out how to set these abilities so that it is convenient, but I will often change the layout at the moment. Get used to it. Guess in 3 times what Willow looks like. Yes, that's right, Mount Horror from the first game. There are also many small puzzles here that lead to infection veins that needed to be destroyed. And there is also a well in the center, which is greatly appreciated. The puzzles themselves, well, will do. In fact, they don't even seem to use all the abilities in the game. Although on the other hand, there are even gears here. Besides all this, there is a mini-boss, which diversifies the gameplay. The boss itself is very simple, especially if you throw fireballs at it. Yes, I'm already used to them, sorry. There is also a sudden escape from the boulder, which can be cheesed, but let's skip that. It seems a little cool to me. And of course, my favorite puzzle with directing a bullet through portals, which I screwed up the first time. Well, sorry, I'm a bit dumb. In general, I just screwed up myself. Everything was much simple. I just apparently aimed crookedly. In any case, the challenges are varied and I really enjoyed replaying this part. The fourth time, it seems a little easier than before, but this is already a cry of skill, I think. I enjoyed the fact that I did not suffer for many hours, although in fact I completed it in almost an hour, well, 50 minutes, and this still seems quite a lot to me. So, the ending. The last final battle. It seems that the end is already here. The Willow tells us that a new age must begin, that we need to accept the light and reunite with Seer, but no such luck. Shriek snatches Seer, and the final boss battle begins. It is the most difficult, the hardest, the most nerve-wracking boss in this game. Well, it's not for nothing that she's the final one. In fact, I'm surprised that I spent only half an hour on it. The first time I played it for about an hour and a half, and then just rage quit the fight. The next day I came back to finish playing and actually finished it. This time it was easier. Why am I so nervous? It's all because of the final phase of the boss. The first phases are not that difficult in principle, and in fact they all prepare for the final one. However, it's still difficult. It's one thing when you have a stable ground on which you can stand, heal, all that. However, in the final phase, Shriek destroys the platform on which you can stand, and all that remains is to push off from the feathers and do launch, all the time staying in the air while trying to fly around Shriek's attacks and then fly up to her to hit her and deal damage. And it's fucking difficult. It's a real fucking nightmare, believe me. There has to be a lot of luck here for the feathers to fly correctly, because otherwise you're screwed, dying over and over. In short, I fried all my nerves, but I was very lucky and I did it. I did it and I passed. And here it is, the final scene. Someone remained in the shadows, and someone, well, in general, see for yourself. Crying? You are! But seriously, I've played through this moment 4 times. I've completed this game 4 times. And seen this ending 4 times. And I cried 4 times. Every time I can't stand this ending and I just start crying. And I'm not ashamed to admit it because I'm a strong adult independent man. Honestly, I don't think my review can show the beauty and amazing charm of this ending. You have to play through it yourself, which is what I advise you to do. I highly recommend playing through the game yourself. The link to the Steam page is in the description, of course. If you want to support me with more than just liking and subscribing, consider checking out the link in the description. There you can donate any sum of money starting from $1. Any donation is appreciated. Thank you in advance. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is probably one of the most beautiful, amazing and magical games I've ever played. It's incredibly sensual, it evokes emotions that games evoke in me, well, not very often. However, any masterpiece has its downsides. Of course, some people might not like the fact that I call this game a masterpiece, but it's just my opinion and I'll try to be more objective about the pros and cons. So, let's begin. Visual glitches. Not exactly a con, but others say that the game sometimes has some small visual glitches. I had something like that at the beginning, where Ori got stuck with berries, and he also sometimes shakes in a cutscene for some reason. I didn't notice this in previous playthroughs on a weaker laptop and a Steam Deck, so that you understand, my computer handles Space Marine 2 just fine, so it's definitely not the problem of the computer. I don't know, I haven't really had any noticeable glitches, but since people are talking, I think it's important to mention it. Controls. My biggest stumbling block is the shitty controls. It's easier and more convenient to play the game on a gamepad than on a PC, and no one will tell you that. In general, to be honest, it's easier on PC in some places, it's easier on a gamepad in others. But overall, it's easier on a gamepad, I think. And you know why? First of all, burying yourself in the sand. For some reason, the icon for burying doesn't appear, and you have to suffer and pray that it damn well appears. There is the same problem with grapple. It's just terribly inconvenient and annoying when you seem to have pressed the button, but the character doesn't do anything. Because that's how it is, so that life doesn't seem like honey. It's insanely annoying, but I can simply advise you to play the game with a gamepad. Or may you rest in peace, to be honest. Abilities that are needed in only one place. No, well, in general this is not a problem, but there are some abilities and features that are very rarely used. They just exist and are needed only in certain locations. For example, I did not use bow at all, because why when there are fireballs? The bow seems more accurate, but it seems really weak to me. In general, there are not many such abilities, but for example, where else besides Luma pools do I need dash in water? In general, somehow useless. And then you can live without these abilities. Lasers that push back when they do damage. Well, this is just annoying. Honestly, it just pisses me off. Like, you activate launch and accidentally fly into a laser, well, it happens, and instead of just damaging you and sending you further, the laser pushes you back. And other thinner lasers, for example, don't push you back at all. How the hell does this work? I don't understand it, it's incredibly annoying. Launch and bash. I don't know, it's also just annoying. Bash stops time, but for some reason launch doesn't. Question why. This is why you often get confused. In essence, it's the same ability, it's just that when you launch, you are the projectile. That's it. Why doesn't time stop? This is very confusing, I don't understand it. Sometimes it's not clear what's background and what's foreground for bosses. It didn't seem like a problem to me and I almost didn't see it, but like, people complain, I'll say this too here. It's important for me to mention it, I'm making a video for you after all, and I think it's important for you to know. Sometimes it's not entirely clear which part of the boss can deal damage when touched because it's on the foreground, and which won't touch you at all. This was a problem for me most in the moment with Shriek. Otherwise, it's not difficult, I think. Well, it wasn't difficult for me, although I did hit Mora's face. Well, we've talked about the bad, now we can talk about the good. I probably won't talk about the visual style, music and plot. After the first game, the sequel probably took everything related to the visual style. The game looks just as magical, maybe even more magical. It perfectly immerses you in the plot, and even if it's still quite primitive and a fairy tale-like, it still evokes emotions. Especially the ending, looping the plot in a ring, showing the loop of life. It's very beautiful and cool. In general, I love this game more than the first one in terms of presentation of everything. It's a Metroidvania! Congratulations! It's finally a Metroidvania. It actually gives you the opportunity to do whatever you want, at least in the part where you need to collect 4 wisps. You can go wherever you want, study whatever you want, and it really encourages you to go everywhere. There is even a small location I haven't been to. More precisely, I haven't shown it to you. And I won't show it. I've probably showed you about 30% of the game, and then you can figure out the rest for yourself. It's interesting, believe me. Variety. probably comes from the previous pro. There is any entertainment of your choice: exploration of the territory, development of the village of Maki, purchase of abilities, races, secrets, and a huge quest to bring and fetch for the whole Niven. This is very cool. I have completed absolutely everything. Everything. In my 26 hours of gameplay, I have collected all the secrets, completed all the races. In general, everything that could be done in the game has been done. And if the game was not so enticing, believe me, I would not have done it. Bosses. Separate charm of the game, especially Mora. I would generally single her out as a separate plus, because she is the most interesting boss in concept, as it seems to me. She was the main selling point for me, and I still adore her. Magical music, awesome presentation, and cool use of location features. I love her madly. I like her more than any other boss, although I think in fact Qualok could compete with her. Also a very cool boss, really. Overall, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a great game that I think I can recommend to everyone. It is really bright, beautiful, and immerses you in it perfectly. Despite its disadvantages, I love it very much, perhaps more than many other games. It is better to go through it yourself, believe me, you will not regret it. This is an experience that is worth having in your life. And that's it for today. Thank you everyone for staying with me through this journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and press the bell button. Have a nice one. Bye!